Hello, everybody. I'm East Coast Pete, and here we are with another mid-rock crisis. Maybe for what the Rolling Stones did for rock, Otis Redding did for soul. Born in 1941, he died in 1967. A singer-songwriter, producer, arranger, and a talent scout. A soul R&B vocalist, and he is considered the greatest of all time. Soul music is gospel plus jazz. R&B is urban rocking jazz with a heavy, steady beat. Otis Redding was signed to a lucrative contract with Stax Records in Memphis. Otis Redding was their hottest ticket. He was distributed by Atco. He was born in Dawson, Georgia, but when he was 2, his family relocated to Macon, Georgia. His father's health was poor. His mom was the breadwinner in the family. At age 15, Otis quit school to get work to help support his family. And one of his jobs was with Little Richard's backing band, the Upsetters. In '58, he joined the Johnny Jenkins band, the Pine Toppers. He toured the southern states as a singer and a driver. He would always send as much as he could back home. His first single, These Arms of Mine, was made possible by leftover studio time as Booker T and the MGs finished early, and his single led to a recording contract in 1962. I bet if Otis was still with Little Richard, the single would never have been made. Little Richard was notorious for keeping a tight rein on his guys. Jimi Hendrix, who was also with Little Richard, was told not to upstage him, that Richard Penniman was the only one allowed to be pretty. Otis's first album, Pain in My Heart, it made an impact with the American fan base. Every track is joy. It's very pure rhythm and blues. After playing small gigs in the South in support of his album, one of his stops was on the Sunset Strip at the Whiskey A Go-Go. His singing began at age 10 in church. He also took voice and drum lessons early in his singing career. He supplemented his income as a gas station attendant and a well digger. At one point, Richard Penniman turned his back on rock and roll, which he had invented, to return to gospel singing. Otis had been making $25 per gig, and that's $218 in today's money. This was high pay, so Otis quickly jumped to Johnny Jenkins' band to continue helping his mom take care of his father, who had tuberculosis. When Otis was only 18, he began to write his own songs, and he also married and had a child. These Arms of Mine sold 800,000 records, and the single Pain in My Heart went to number 20 in the R&B chart and 85 in the U.S. chart. His family was proud of him and supported his singing career without question, because they knew how good he was. Otis played the Apollo in Harlem. A live album was recorded and released. His song, Call Me Mr. Pitiful, was drenched in sincerity and sharp emotion, but Otis was method acting the part. He was anything but pitiful in life or in love. In 1965, he co-wrote I've Been Loving You Too Long. Old Man Trouble and Respect, which Aretha Franklin made into her signature song. And it became one of the biggest hits in the history of the music business. Otis Redding was one of the first Americans to play the Whiskey a Go-Go. What I meant to say was Otis Redding was one of the first African Americans to play the Whiskey a Go-Go. You'd think the Whiskey a Go-Go was all full of people from outside of the United States, but no, first African American is what I meant, folks. I am so sorry. He was also the first soul musician to perform in the Southwest. At this point, Bob Dylan offered Redding his Just Like a Woman in '66, and Otis made Try a Little Tenderness his own. The publisher, they were against the idea. They didn't want their song to be presented from a quote-unquote Negro perspective. Today, Tenderness is seen as Otis Redding's signature song. So powerful was his version. It was backed by Booker T and the MGs, and Isaac Hayes produced. The next album, Complete and Unbelievable, the Otis Redding Dictionary of Soul. It went to number 25 in the United States and number 4 on the R&B chart. In the last months of '66, Otis played the Fillmore West. Bill Graham said, "It was the best gig I'd ever put on in my entire life." A European tour followed. Otis recorded a duet album with Carla Thoris. Singles were Tramp and Knock on Wood. The album went to number 36 US and number 4 R&B. In 1967, Bill Graham arranged for Otis Redding to appear at the Monterey Pop Festival. The second night, the last act, he stole the entire show up to that point. His performance gave him added crossover appeal and national acclaim. His performance was electric. This was evident in the concert footage. He blew up their minds. The songs he played were Respect, so different from Aretha, Satisfaction, Otis rolled over the Stones, 3, Shake, a Sam Cooke number, 4, I've Been Loving You Too Long, 5, Try a Little Tenderness, Curtain. Monterey Pop was Redding's last major concert appearance. In the audience, Brian Jones and Jimi Hendrix were spellbound. Redding was hospitalized with throat polyps, which he had been treating with what? He had been treated with cinnamon tea and honey. He had surgery in September of '67. In December, he recorded Sitting on the Dock of the Bay at Stax. Steve Cropper, guitarist for Booker T, co-wrote it. They worked on the composition in Sausalito on a houseboat. Otis said he wanted to give it a Sgt. Pepper feel. Stax objected, saying the song wasn't R&B. Bassist Donald Duck Dunn was worried that the change of pace would damage Redding's reputation, but Otis thought it was his best song. That Doc would chart high. The band had taken to traveling from city to city in Redding's Beechcraft. It's an H-18 airplane. On December 9th, en route to Madison, Wisconsin, from Cleveland, it was raining and foggy. Despite warnings, they took off. About 4 miles from their destination, the pilot radioed for permission to land, but they crashed into the lake. All except one passenger perished. The cause of the crash was never determined. Redding's body was recovered the next day and services were held in Macon, and he was buried at his ranch in Round Oak. The crash happened 3 days after recording Dock of the Bay, and it was released in January in '68 and quickly rose to #1. The new album also went to #1, and I believe that this would have happened whether he was a survivor or not. Stax was bankrupt. Their holdings were sold to Warner. They were surprised to find that Atlantic owned the entire catalog, and Stax was unable to retain rights to Otis Redding's past and future earnings. Atlantic had enough unreleased Redding material for 3 albums. Redding's well-known single, Hard to Handle, was among these. Redding sold more albums than Frank Sinatra. His albums are still in print and are still selling. Here we go. 64, Pain in My Heart. 65, The Great Otis Redding. 65, also Otis Blue. In 66, The Soul Album. Also in 66, Complete and Unbelievable. In 67, King and Queen. In 68, Dock of the Bay. In 68, also Love Man. In 70, Tell the Truth. And in 92, Remember Me. The album's Pain in My Heart. It's like an early R&B horn band, but what a singer. #2, Hound Dog. Do the Hound Dog. It's a dance with a saxophone. Walk the Dog. The Dog. 3, Stand By Me. And 4, Hey Hey Baby. R&B evolves into rock and roll at this time, at this place, with this song. 5, You Send Me. Honest You Do. 6, I Need Your Lovin', Baby. 7, These Arms of Mine. 8, Louie Louie. 9, Something Is Worrying Me, and 10, Security. And 11, That's What My Heart Needs. The great Otis Redding sings soul ballads also. That's How Strong My Love Is. Want Me to Be Somebody. You're One and Only Man. Nothing Can Change This Love. I Want to Thank You. Home in Your Heart. Those Arms Around Me. And Mr. Pitiful. Airplanes. He did everything he needed to do before that happened, but I'm sure he would have been able to do a whole lot more had he not taken that flight that night. He's simply the greatest singer that ever was. You know, I know I'm high on some of the artists I've done on Midrock Crisis, but this guy, who can name someone better doing what he does when he did it? Well, thanks for being with me and Otis. I'll be back soon for another Midrock Crisis. Everybody take good care.